Okay, so for those of us who may be joining for the first time, welcome. This is the oily underground, and the whole idea behind it is that the first part of this is just pure education on whatever our theme is, and then we go dark slash I stop recording, and we hear people's real life testimonies and stories about things they've tried, products they've used to find relief from whatever we're dealing with here. So welcome. For those who don't know me, my name is Sarah Loveland, and then our other co-host is Sarah Jones. So needless to say, if you say Sarah, somebody's going to respond. And then our third fearless leader, Brooke Ann, won't be with us tonight. You guys can keep her in your prayers and thoughts as she's going through really horrible time just with her family. And if you know her and you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to message me after the Zoom, and I'm happy to connect you with what's kind of going on. Anyway, so tonight is the first introduction to the endocrine system. This is a big topic, like really, really big topic. We are going to be breaking down, for the most part, according to the organs and glands within the endocrine system. I'm going to do my best to give you some good education that's not thoroughly overwhelming, because these are like some complicated things that we're going to be talking about. So if I'm going too fast, or I'm just like losing you, then I really need you guys to let me know that, okay? A little bit of my background for those of you who don't know me: I am an adult ICU nurse. I've been an ICU nurse for 8 years, been a nurse for almost 10. Can't even believe it myself, but it's real.
Only 10.
I'm here with Lori, so if you see her like looking over and laughing, it's because we're in the same kitchen table currently. And she's like only a nurse for 10 years because she's a veteran for sure. So I'm sure we'll get some good info from her later as well. And we're both drinking Moscow Mule, so sorry you're not in on this, friends. All right, so the endocrine system. Sarah, we are recording, and if you can keep an eye on the chat for me, that would be great. Questions, either throw in the chat, or if you really need to know right now, unmute yourself and ask the question. Unless I'm in a really big role, in which case I'll kick you out. I'm just kidding, I won't do that. All right, so endocrine system. What is it? The endocrine system is a system in the body, and it's made up of several different organs called glands. We refer to them as glands. There's about 9 of them, major ones within the endocrine system, and they create and secrete or disperse hormones within the body. So I'm pretty positive that we've all heard the term hormones. If we haven't, I'm going to need to know that in the chat box, and we can follow up later. But hormones are obviously a big deal. They're chemicals that coordinate different functions in your body by carrying messages through your blood to different organs, skin, muscles, and other tissues, and they literally tell your body what to do and when to do it. So I think that we can all agree that hormones are super important, that they are a big deal. And obviously imbalances in hormones is also a big deal, because then if there are imbalances in your hormones, they can't be communicating correctly with your body. So what are some things that can cause hormonal imbalances? And these are just generics right now. Illness, right? Sickness, acute or chronic. Stress. Certain medicines can cause hormonal imbalances, just like when you're adding anything to the body, potentially it could. And then endocrine disruptors. Raise your hand, my friends, if you've heard of the term endocrine disruptors. Love that. I love that, guys. Excellent participation, by the way. Thank you. Endocrine disruptors are molecules or chemicals that very much mimic hormones in your body. So then your body is thinking that those chemicals are actually hormones and changing things in your body according to false information. So that's a big deal. Endocrine disruptors, literally, we are exposed to them daily. They're all the toxins in our life. chemicals that are in your skincare products, cleaning products, everything like that. Other would be medicines as well, supplements. A lot of these things can be endocrine disruptors if you don't know exactly what's in them and how they're working. So a big no-no would be endocrine disruptors. All right, so today, that is just the briefest overview of the endocrine system. I went to school for 4 years to tell you that. But we are going to be doing an introduction to the adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands sit on top of each of your kidneys, and they control metabolism, blood pressure, sexual development, and most importantly, well, not necessarily most importantly, but a big deal is that our entire response to stress is literally located in our adrenals on top of our kidneys. So that's kind of a big deal. Your adrenals are composed of 2 sections within the gland itself. There is the cortex, which is the outer region of your adrenal, and then inside your adrenal gland is the medulla. Depends on who you are and how you want to say that. The cortex, which is the outer region, is considered the largest region of your adrenal gland, and it's consisted of 3 zones within that. Your zona glomerulosa, there won't be a test. Your zona fasciculata, and your zona veticularis. I'm going to come back to these. I just want you to know that there's different zones within that, and each of those 3 zones produces and secretes different hormones, and we're going to come back to that. I'm just going to do an overview quickly before I go a little bit more in depth. So that's all your outer largest region of the adrenal gland. Within the adrenal gland is your medulla, however you want to say that, and it produces your stress hormones. By that we mean your adrenaline and noradrenaline. So your response to, it's your fight or flight response. So that's where those hormones come from. Again, we're going to go more in depth to that. So before I go more in depth to the specific hormones, I want to quickly talk about how they actually work in your body. So adrenal glands produce hormones in response to signals from the pituitary gland, which sits up here. And your pituitary gland is reacting to your hypothalamus, which sits up here. This is called the axis or triangle of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So these 3 hormones are the best of friends, the 3 musketeers, if you will. And one cannot do their job without the other or the other, okay? So again, that is your adrenals, your pituitary gland, and your hypothalamus. Those all 3 are listening to each other this whole time. Just looking at my notes here. All right, I'm going to dive again into the adrenal glands, and then we'll go over why this is such a big deal in general, if you already haven't figured that out. Okay, so in general, and Sarah's going to go into this as well, but I wanted to mention it. In general, we can agree that we need to keep our endocrine system and our adrenals healthy, right? So we're not going to specifically talk about this, but exercise, your nutrition, and overall wellness is going to play a huge role in that, right? Sorry, my notes are all over the place, guys. It's a lot. Okay, so we are going to go into the hormones of the actual adrenal glands. All right, here we go. So within your zona glomerulosa, which is the outer region of the adrenal gland in the cortex, you have aldosterone. Aldosterone is a hormone produced that plays a central role in regulating blood pressure and certain electrolytes. Electrolytes are sodium, potassium. The aldosterone sends signals to the kidneys, which then tell the body to absorb more sodium or to release more potassium. So that means that aldosterone helps regulate the blood pH by controlling the levels of electrolytes in the blood. Again, you don't need to remember any of this, but I want to make sure that we understand why the adrenal glands are such a big deal. The next part of the cortex is the zona reticularis, and we have our DHEA and androgenic steroids produced there. These are what we call weak male hormones. Basically, they're called weak male hormones because they are precursor hormones. They can be converted into other hormones. In the ovaries, they would be converted into estrogen, and in the testes, they are converted into androgens. Okay. The third zone of the cortex is the zone glomerulosa. Nope, I already said the zone vesiculata. And this is probably the more well-known hormone produced by the adrenal glands, and that is cortisol. Who here has heard of cortisol? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Cortisol plays lots of very, very important roles in the body. It helps control the body's use of fats, proteins, and carbs. It suppresses inflammation, also helps regulate blood pressure, increases your blood sugar, and can also decrease some bone formation. So this hormone is what controls your sleep and wake cycle. It's released during times of stress to help your body get an energy boost and then better handle that emergency situation. So we're going to remember that. All right, and then we've got in the medulla, I really love saying that. Your stress hormones, your actual like primal stress hormones, which is your adrenaline and your noradrenaline. So those are the hormones in like crazy situations that are released, and because you have to all of a sudden rise to the occasion. Like if you're a parent and you thought something was wrong or happening to your kid right then and there, something clicks in you, right? And then you like you run and you take care of it as best you can. So that's what I'm talking about. And those are the hormones produced. So if you were to write anything down, I would say write down what I'm about to tell you. Your propensity, so your how likely you would be to develop certain kinds of diseases and your ability to respond to chronic illness is significantly influenced by your adrenals. So I'm going to say that again. Your likelihood to develop certain kinds of diseases and your ability to respond to chronic illness is significantly influenced by your adrenals. So when we were marketing this class, we threw out a lot of symptoms that a lot of us can relate to on some level, I'm sure. Fatigue, especially at night, or energy all of a sudden at night, but fatigue and like dropping, being really tired throughout the day. Craving sweets, salty stuff, brain fog. I mean, all of these are sort of like general symptoms, but I want to explain why they've sort of developed into what's called adrenal fatigue. Because this doctor who kind of figured it out named it the 21st century disease, and that's for a specific reason. So what happens with adrenal fatigue is that your body is being told to secrete too much cortisol, too much stress hormones in general. So back in our old primitive days, we really worried about eating, sleeping, procreating, and surviving. I mean, that was literally it. So when we had these stressful situations, it is because one of those things wasn't happening. And now you think about the life that we're living and everything that we're fighting and trying to keep in our mind and figure out we're so stressed out on all aspects everywhere that our body has been taxed. So what that means is that our body is in this, like, for lack of a better, like, it is acting like this, the way that I'm looking right now, all the time, because everything it's perceiving and taking in and regulating is saying that I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. So the body actually produces so much cortisol that it kind of stops. It doesn't then respond to actual stressors that you are perceiving and experiencing because it can't anymore. It's already done what it could. So obviously, stress plays a huge role in that. And one of the things I want to talk about, the adrenal fatigue specifically, is the role that it plays on our blood sugar balance, because we don't hear about this very often. And as I was doing some extra research for this, I'm like reading this and realizing, oh, this definitely me. This could be written about me. So adrenal fatigue, everything I just told you about, and stress play a huge role on our blood sugar balances. We've already heard about cortisol, but it also works with insulin to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. I'm not going to go into how that's the case because it's already been quite sciencey. But because cortisol works with insulin to maintain blood sugar levels, and blood sugar is important because we literally need sugar to run any cellular process in our bodies, which is why not all sugar is bad. There is good sugar. You need some sugar to even survive. But if these two, the stress hormone cortisol and insulin, are like fighting with each other, a lot of times when you're in an extra stressful situation, you could experience hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, because your body's whacked out when it comes to your stress and insulin and blood sugar levels. Or there's a lot of times that adrenal fatigue will even precede actual sickness and type 2, so sudden onset adult diabetes, because of these levels of stress within your blood. So stress would normally cause the adrenal glands to produce more cortisol, the stress hormone, and that helps raise your blood sugar levels. And then the elevated blood sugar would in turn require higher levels of insulin to get that glucose from the blood inside the cells. So when this happens too much, which is what happens in stressful situations, the cells become resistant to insulin, which means they don't take in the blood sugar that they need because it's the same with you taking medicine and your body getting used to it, or you using the same oils every single day and your body getting used to it. So the cells are becoming too used to the insulin because this cycle is going on and on and on and on. So if you have adrenal fatigue, your cortisol levels are going to be low because they were so high for so long, all of a sudden they couldn't do it anymore. And that makes it hard to maintain healthy levels of blood sugar, right? So that might be why you're craving sweets, because your body needs the blood sugar, and then you're snacking on not good sugars, which is actually worse for your blood sugar. And it's just this really negative cycle that you can continue to find yourself in, which is where I have found myself in these past few months. So I get it. So I know that this is a lot of science. I'm going to take a break and see if you have any questions for me. I'm reading. All right. So what sugars are you asking? Like, what sugars are good sugars?
Yeah, that's what she was saying. So I just answered with like natural, but I was just mentioning like FOS and inulin and things that are added, that can actually act as a like activator to your probiotics. So you'll see those some places, but you know, any natural sugar, anything that, I mean, like carrots have sugar in them.
Fruit.
It's when you go with that processed stuff that you're affecting your insulin in such a negative way.
Another good thing that you could do is I would Google foods/snacks that have, and I'll write this down, a high glycemic index. And those are basically, they're going to maintain your blood sugar levels the right way. And that way you can kind of keep those on hand. So if you're feeling that way, you can eat the right sugars instead of the wrong sugars.
So Young Living's little like Ninja Wolf berry bars are really great, like to tie you through to keep your blood sugar from crashing. But if you see in the chat where I threw in Acatea to the rescue, Acatea is going to be your oil that you can put under your tongue. That's going to naturally balance out your blood sugar to help you stay balanced, not seeing those massive ups and downs and big drops. Super helpful for diabetics, but also helpful for all of us.
Yeah, when I noticed that when I take Acatea, I do not get, normally I'll only get hypoglycemic at work, which makes sense because it can be quite stressful. And I noticed that when I take that in the morning that I don't have those dips in my sugar. All right. I think that more than covers the education piece. Also some good feedback, especially as we go through the endocrine system moving forward. You don't have to do it right now, but you can message me or Sarah Jones privately. Is that like a good level of education? Like sciencey, because this is a lot of science, obviously, or do you want it a little bit backed off or anything like that? But you can just send messages to me or Sarah Jones for some feedback. That would be really helpful moving forward as we go through the endocrine system. But I hope, if nothing else, you've realized that these little glands on top of your kidneys are very important and we need to take care of them. Acatea should be listed. It is available last I checked.
Only available on Essential Rewards.
Oh, well, that is actually ideal.
Yep. This is from the lady that orders 4 bottles a month.
That's my girl.
I got you.
How often would you use it? I just use it once in the morning. You could, I would probably not do it more than 2 or 3 times a day. But I've noticed help just using it once in the morning. I think we are ready, unless there's any questions from just what I went over. I think we're ready for me to turn the recording off and we can get to the underground part. Yeah. I am a dork.
Turn it off. I have something to say.
Okay, sorry. Turn it off. I gotta fit pause.